Hello and welcome to this tutorial on Microsoft Excel. In this tutorial, we're taking a deep dive on one of the tools by which we could use in managing lists. And that tool is the Format as Table tool. The Format as Table tool, like many persons know, can help us quickly convert a range of cells to a table with its own style. And so many Excel users see this tool as just a tool by which we can give a style to our tables. But the tool does more than that. So today we'll do a deep dive into the tool and see all the possibilities that this tool can help us with. To start with, I want to inform that I'm using Excel 2016, and I believe that if you use Excel 2013 and above, this tutorial will apply. So let's jump into the tutorial. We assume that we are recording data with regards to a computer accessory shop, and we sell different computer accessory such as mouse, keyboard, power cords, and the likes on a monthly basis. And then this is how we get our raw data or our source files. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create another sheet, and in this sheet we can rename this sheet to be something like our data storage. Any ideal name can be used for it, and we go to our source data and we take just 1 month. We take just 1 month, copy, come here, and we just paste it here. So we adjust the columns, the column width, by selecting the sheet selector here, and then double clicking on any of the column lines, and that helps us to adjust our table. Possibly we'll want this to be center, including its header. And so we have our table here. So what we can do in order to use the Format as Table tool is to just click on just any cell in the table, just any cell, and then go to our Format as Table tab, icon rather, and you can select just any of these. Let's just pick this, select this, and you want to pay attention to this dialog box that comes up. It's important you pay attention to it so that you get the desired result. Sometimes this is unticked because of the way our table may have been formatted, but we want to ensure that we tell Microsoft Excel that we have headers in our table, and so that makes it easy for you to format the first row as a header. But that would just be enough, and then we click OK, and then we see that our style has been implemented in our table. So one thing I want you to notice is that as soon as the table style is implemented, we get a new tab in our ribbon. We get a new tab in our ribbon. So you just want to watch this place. You see, every time I go out of it, we get our usual tabs and our usual ribbon. But when we come into the table, the Excel format table, we get an additional tab here. Now this tab contains things that we can use to manage our Format as Table table here. And so let's take a look at each of the groups here and see what things we can do with this data. Actually, we can look at the first, which talks about properties, and then here we see that this is our table name, and you can easily see that we can change it, you know. So we can change it to something like data store, preferably with the name without space is just ideal, and enter, and that would be it. And we can confirm if we have a table in this workbook with this. If you go to the formula tab, you go to name manager, you see that we have that table, its name here. So our table is set, and let's go back to the design tab and see some other things we can do. We could summarize the table with a pivot table, but in this case, we just have that for 1 month. We've not had that much data, and we'll be considering pivot tables in another video. And we could remove duplicates in situations where we have duplicates. If we want to remove duplicates from a table, this would help us. It's no different from the tool that we have in the data tab, and under data tools, you see here, remove duplicates, and we're told it deletes duplicates rows from a sheet. It just does the same thing. So back to our design tab, we have convert to range. Now, convert to range is the opposite of what we did when we implemented the style for our table. So when we convert to range, let's just convert this to range and see what happens. So we click this, and it asks us, do you want to convert the table to a normal range? Actually, it was a normal range before we converted it to an Excel format table. But here, let's just see what happens. So we click yes, and so it's a normal range. How do I know it's a normal range? While I'm in any of this cell of the table, I no longer see my design tab again. However, it implements the style that we choose, but many of the functionalities that we can use when it is an Excel format table no longer is available for us to use. So we can easily convert it back to an Excel format table, and here again it is. Let's go to, right, yes, everything's fine, so we click OK, and so it's back. We have our design tab here, and so we have the slicer here. It's a very interesting tool. I want to come back to it when we have more data on this table. So we can export it, like you can see here. It says export the data in this table to a SharePoint list or Visio diagram. That's beyond this the scope of this tutorial, but you can see that it's possible for us to do that. And if the data on this table is connected to an external source, we could do refreshing on our table. So currently now it's not connected to any external data. We copied and brought it here. And so we could do a lot of external data management with this data group, external table data group here. Then we look at the table style options. The table style options offer us a lot of things to do, but that depends on the kind of table we have. For example, let's toy with some of the options. We have the header row selected here. If I take out a tick, you can see I don't have a header row, and I don't know what instances would make us not want a header row. So that is ticked. We want it. Then we have the total row, and this is one of the most interesting things about Excel format tables. The total row helps us to do a lot about about analyzing our table on the fly. So if I click the total row, you can see that I have a total row coming up here, you know, and I have here, I've got the default function that works here. This is a sum function. And because it's unit cost, I shouldn't be doing a sum function, so I should just say none. But I will appreciate a sum function for the quantity ordered. And although we have different items here, by the time we filter for any of these items, we'll get the total. So we'll enjoy using this tool, especially when we have more data in our table, and I'll show you how to do that in a bit. So let's take out the total, and these are all formats. For example, we want the first row to have a different format from all other cells in the row. Yes, we could do this. We could do for last column, and that gives this a different format. And then we could have banded columns, and banded columns this time around, because the option we have chosen is not banded. If you go this way, you can see the banded. We can see here those that are banded. You see those that are banded here. So, but we've not chosen any one of that in this tutorial. So we're just using one that has a simple style. And the filter buttons, you could choose to take out the filter buttons or leave it in your table. Of course, you could also do this by holding down your Control Shift L. Control Shift L toggles between bringing in your filter buttons and taking it out. So let's just leave it out. We can always bring it in. And then we have different size, just in case you want to change the style of your table. You can always come here and have a change of table. You see, so if I point to this, you see it has a different styling, and this, and just like that. So you could choose which is appropriate. I'm just fine with this, so we're going to use it. Now, one other thing I want you to understand about these tables is, if you look right here, you're going to find something like a love sign here. Now, what that does is that it helps to define the range of your table. It helps to define the range of your table. So, talking about the range of our table, okay, we can access it here. You have the name tab. You see, you have the table 3 there, and it selects this. But when you go to the formula tab, the name manager, and here, you're going to see the range of your table. So you can see here. So it says it's from A3, that's correct. It starts from A3 and then all down to D6, all down to D6, all down to D6. So it defines, this defines your table range. I could pull it down to include another, and we could pull it as many rows, and then we could have data into entered into these cells. But the beautiful thing about Excel format tables is that we really need not do that at all. We don't need to do that at all. And so what we need to do is we could always add data to our table, and automatically the table range would adjust, expand on its own accordingly. So let's go and take data relating to February. So we get February, and we come in here. I always advise that when you want to paste data into a table range, because sometimes we might be copying from Excel files that might have been downloaded from ERPs. They come with a lot of formats that could distort the format in our Excel formatted tables. So it's best that when you want to enter data into it, you enter them as values. So in our paste icon, I click the drop down button and I just paste as values. So you can see that my table range is extended. If you go to the formula bar, the formula tab rather, and the name manager, you quickly see that it has adjusted. So it's D10, and that's actually what we have here. It's been adjusted. So that's one beautiful thing about it. Now let me show you some other things that we can enjoy with the Excel format table. Now we have quantity orders, we have unit cost. What if we want to have our total cost per row, per each of these rows? So I'm going to have a total cost here, and I just hit my enter button and that gets created. Another beautiful thing about it is that I could enter my formula and I say that I want my quantity ordered multiplied by my unit cost, and so I hit my enter button and that gets all the way down. Irrespective of the number of rows we have in this table, we will enter our formula just once and it would update all through. And one thing about the Excel format tables is that it ensures that we do not have errors when we enter our formulas or when we copy our formulas down. So like you can see, looking at the formula bar, you would notice that we have the same formula in each of the cells. Some persons do not like the structure or the nature of this formula, of the formulas, when you have it in an Excel format table. Of course, you can always use that which you used to use before. For example, I could say C3, and so it's referring to this, and we say multiplied by D3, and so that's just fine, and we hit our enter button. It will also update and then give us all of this. But the beauty of it is that entering it in one cell applies it in as many rows that we may have in our table. So that's an interesting thing to have in an Excel format table. And I want you to notice one thing that happened. Let's go to our raw data and bring in everything for March, the month of March. And so once again, we're putting it in here, placing it as values. You could always have your, you could also do that with shortcut keys to paste just the values. And so here, you notice that I brought in my raw data and then it computes it automatically here. So no matter the number of calculated columns that we have, the Excel format table would apply it as soon as we bring in raw data into our tables. And that's one beautiful thing about using Excel tables. And I encourage you to use it as much as you can in your everyday work, because it's going to do a lot of interesting things for you. Now, one thing I want to tell you is that when you're laying out your data, it's always good for your raw data to be in columns towards your left-hand side of your table, while all calculations should be towards your right-hand side. Now, this is just ideal so that it makes it faster for you to copy your data and paste it into your Excel formatted table, and then all other formulas runs. If we have to paste raw data in columns within calculated columns, that will mean we'll have to be doing some copy, then paste, go back to our data, copy and paste into the column, you know. So, but you could just have everything. You could just have everything towards your left hand side, so that it's like a plug and play. Dump your raw data and have calculations done for you. That's fine and interesting. So we can always have that in our calculations. So now, what's more with our Excel formatted tables? Let's go back to our design tab and notice that there were two things that I actually want you to know and have in your spreadsheet toolbox, and that's the slicer and then the total row. Now, what I'm going to do is bring in the rest of the data. So we just go copy all of this, and bring it in once. Like I said, it's like plug and play. Plug it in and it plays and gives us everything that we want. Now, at this point, let's bring in, let's tell this Excel format table to give us total rows. Yeah. So you see that here it has just a total of quantity order, but of different items. So we can easily say that this is the total number of items that we have sold so far for the period in consideration. Now, let us see some analysis we can do on the fly using the total row and the slicer. So, okay, at this point, we would want to do some analysis on our Excel formatted table with all of the data in it. And so what we do is that while we are in the Excel formatted table, we want to introduce our total row. So our total row here gives us the total, items, total items that we have here. And as you can see, it's using the subtotal function to give us that. Recall that we could have other functions. We're just using the sum here. We could have other functions here, and then we could use them in carrying out whatever kind of analysis as may be appropriate to be used. So notice also that when I scroll, down my table, Excel with an Excel format table allows us to still see the field names of our table. So we don't have to do anything to try to keep first or second row fixed in our table. Excel just does that when we use an Excel formatted table, and so that makes it quite interesting. So having our total row included in our table, we want to use the slicer. We want to see what the slicer can help us do in this analysis. So I'm going to create a few rows atop our table, and I'm going to ask myself, what would I be using to do analysis? I may want to use dates. I may want to find out things with regards to dates. I want to find out things regarding my product ID. Here we're assuming that our product ID are just the names of them. That's not ideal, but this is just a tutorial to help us see what these Excel formatted tables can do. In real life, we should be having IDs that would help us identify each of these products rather than having these names for them. So let's bring in the slicers. So we are going to go to our design tab, hit our slicer, and then we click on date and we click on product. So this tool would just be okay for us to see what slicers does. So when we click on OK, and then we have these objects that can help us, you know, as if it were filter our tables. They're called slicers, and they do a beautiful work in helping us do analysis on our Excel tables. And so I'm just going to fix them here. Like you can already see, they are very ideal for Excel dashboards. Beautiful tools for you to use for your Excel dashboards. So let me just, all right, that's fine. So what can we do here? So here I can easily choose that I want to see data related to January, and so you can see my table adjusts just to data from January. I'm able to see the total counts of all of this, and so I can see the total cost. We could come in here, bring in our sum function, and then we could have the total cost here. So maybe we want to format this. Fine, format it to be just like this, and so there it is. And what if we say we're just interested in seeing things about January for the first quarter? So you could hold your shift button and actually click to have everything from the first quarter. And so we can see what was total cost of sales of chargers, just chargers. So we see that of chargers here, only for chargers, only for keyboards, only for mouse, and only for power cord. So what I'm looking at here is that when we use Excel formatted tables, there are certain questions that comes up that we can easily answer when we are doing our everyday work. So our boss asks us for quarter so and so, what was the total cost for all of the goods sold? So we can easily come here and see that this is quarter one of 2018, and we can easily get this value and then speed it out as a response to that question. So that's what Excel format tables helps us to do. And so you might want to look back on your tables that you use in your everyday work and ask yourself, which one can I convert to an Excel formatted table and enjoy this on-the-fly analysis that we can do on the tables. So that I believe would help you in managing your data and getting certain on-the-fly insight of your tables, no matter how many rows your tables may have. So these are the benefits of Excel format tables, and I want to believe that you've learned them and you want to apply them in your use of Microsoft Excel. It's my pleasure to make this known to you, especially for those who may not have known about it. And I hope you enjoyed the video. So I encourage you to like the video or subscribe to my channel so that you could get other tutorials, especially if you enjoy the way that I give my tutorials. Thank you very much for watching. See you in another video.